All right, folks, pretty exciting news. GGG just released all the Ascendancy information for early access, and there are some massive nodes on these Ascendancies. I'm actually so excited for early access. I'm planning on making a Minion build, and for this video, I kind of wanted to talk about Minion builds in general, but also talk about some of like the less looked at Minion Ascendancies. I think the Witch has been kind of looked at quite a bit because that's where the Minion nodes are on the tree, so it makes sense that wanted an easy start into minions, then you would go one of the witch ascendancies. But I think that Titan and Gemling Legionnaire are a bit slept on. Maybe not Gemling Legionnaire so much, but definitely Titan. But I want to take a look at some stats here and kind of compare some things and make an argument for why you shouldn't sleep on Titan and Gemling Legionnaire for minions. All right, first thing we have here at the Gemling Legionnaire is this 1-2 punch that's 10% quality of all skills and +1 to level of all skills. Now, this combo is absolutely nasty, okay? I'm going to show you some quality stuff first, and then we'll go into some level stuff. All right, so quality in PoE 1, you can get up to 20% quality on a gem, and so 10% would be about half that. So I just took some numbers from PoE 1, just give you guys an example of the types of stats that you might see show up. Although I think GGG said that Gem Cutters Prisms are more of an endgame currency now, and quality is probably a little bit better than in PoE 1. So I'd say these numbers and these stats here are actually conservative, and I expect them to be better in-game in PoE 2, okay? So here's some examples of types of things that you could see. Absolution, Blink, and Mirror Arrow, and Dawn Blow all have increased cooldown recovery rate. This is like, in some cases, it'll increase the rate at which you can use the skill, and in some cases, it increases the rate at which your minion uses its skill. This stat you can't get on the skill tree, okay? This stat is just like insane. So like getting it on the quality on the minion gem may be the only place to get this kind of thing. The skill tree is really good for like increased minion damage and increased minion attack speed and things like that, but it's not as good for this kind of thing. So because these things don't typically show up on the tree, getting it from quality can be really potent. Then you have things that give you like extra of something. So like animate weapon, raise zombie, skeletons, they all give you like extra. So like 1 to extra weapons, 1 to extra zombie. In this case, 10% on the old gem would only give you like half a zombie or like half a skeleton. But again, I expect these numbers to be a bit better in PoE 2. This can be really a bit like this can be a big deal. I don't know like how the max is going to work. My understanding is that there's going to be a spirit cap, and then you just summon up to your limit of spirit. So potentially something like this, like extra to zombies, would actually just be reduction in spirit cost. So that's a possibility. I don't want to say that for sure because I don't know, but like, you know, something like that could come up. And if that does come up on one of the gems, minion quality is going to be very, very good. And then you have some like more niche things like Summon Raging Spirits has a chance to summon an additional skull every time you cast it. Again, that one was reworked where you summon a bunch all at once anyway, so maybe you have a chance to summon 1 extra or 2 extra each time. That could be really cool. And then Summon Reaper has chance to inflict bleeding on it, so maybe we could even see some like ailment stuff, like maybe one could be like you know, chance to poison, chance to bleed, chance to ignite, something like that, right? Or you know, maybe the minion quality in PoE 2 is cracked, and it's like, you know, the minion cleric heals 2 minions at once or something like that once you get it up over 10, and then at 28 it's like 3 or something. Like it could be something completely cracked, right? So I expect minion quality to be very good. I expect that node will be very good, and people I think are underrating it just because it's only at 10%. And like in the context of PoE 1, maybe that's not that great, but in the context of PoE 2, this could be absolutely insane. All right, then next thing we have is plus the level of gems. So I put together an example here of what this means because sometimes you have a hard time visualizing like what's the damage increase, what's the defense increase on something like this. So this is an example of +1 to level of gems on specters on a Frost Auto Scout. And I chose this one because it's a pretty generic minion and it has like 1 basic attack that it uses, and you just skill that 1 attack. So it's like nice and clean to look at. All right, so if you got +1 to gems from a level 20 gem, like in PoE 1, to a level 21 gem in PoE 1, your Spectre limit wouldn't change, and in PoE 2, it wouldn't change either because that's based off of Spirit. But the Spectre level would go from 70 to 72. So a level 70 Frost Auto Scout hits from 1258 to 1887 cold damage, but a level 72 Frost Auto Scout hits from 1400 to 2100 cold damage, which is about a 10% increase in damage, which is a pretty significant increase in damage. But what's even more powerful than the increase in damage is the increase in life. Because if you look, it goes from 28,228 base life to 35,042 base life, which is a 20% increase in life. So the increase in life is significantly larger than the increase in damage. And then also, armor is going up, ailment threshold is going up, accuracy, I don't have it, it's kind of like blocked here, but accuracy goes up. And ailment threshold, by the way, that's like, if your minion gets hit with like a cold spell, for example, like the chance that it has to receive a chill or a freeze from that, or like shock from lightning, etc., etc. Maybe that this stat here is actually really important in PoE 2 because of there being like more avoidable things that hit really hard and give you like big ailments, but like maybe you're not able to move your minions around as much to get them out of it, so them having high ailment threshold is actually really important. So there's like a lot of layers here actually to like how good a +1 level of gems on a minion could actually be. But I think that this one is going to be underrated by a lot of people. I think that +1 to minions is always going to be a really good pickup. All right, so you've got that 1-2 punch there then, and then like what else do you take? Myself, on a Gemling Legionnaire, I would actually take 7 first, then I would go 1-2. And the reason I would take 7 first is because you get this one here, adaptive capability, that says attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute, which means that if you're in like the strength-ish area, because I assume if you're taking this guy, you're going to like path up through the defensive stuff, through the warrior and Templar area up. You could stack some strength, get a ton of life, and then you can, use your strength to fulfill the requirements for your int gems instead, which is like super broken. So like, I think they said your first lab is like level 20 or 30 or something like that. Let's say it's level 20 or level 30. That means that right from level 20, you can put on like pretty demanding int gems on, like you could put on a Spectre, you could put on whatever, as soon as you pick this up. So this is going to be very powerful. Then behind it, you have inherent bonuses from int, strength, and dex are doubled. So there's a couple options here. I mean, you could just, stack strength and get a ton of health, and that will double the health that you get from stacking your strength. You could stack a ton of int instead of stacking the strength and go like mind over matter, and that would be really powerful too. There's definitely a lot of options here. And then another thing that you have to consider too is, are they going to add in attribute stacking for minions? Because we did have this in PoE 1. We had this on the Baron, which gave us attribute stacking with strength. And then we also had it on, I think there was an item called like Speaker's Wreath or something like that, which did it based off dex. So depending on what kind of like attribute stacking minion stuff that we can get, I feel like this Ascendancy could really take off. All right, so what would I do if I was going? I would probably do like 7, 1, 2, 8 or something like that. And then the other option is that you go up this path here, where you get like the extra skill slots, because like minion builds historically have always been really high on buttons that go into these kinds of builds. Maybe our 9 that we get isn't enough. Then you want to go and get these 3 additional slots. This one here, gem studded, you can use 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills. If you're using like 2 different minions, but you want them to both have some of the same minion supports, I could see this one being really build enabling too. That could be nuts. And then of course this like max res one, this is like a ginormous defensive layer. So like, I think like actually every single node on this tree, you could make an argument for minions, minus this like last cost of skills one, because I don't think that that's going to work with Spirit. So I think like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 could all be used with a minion build. So I think actually Gemling Legionnaire is going to be completely nuts. And the other thing too is all this stuff is extremely general, which means if you want to switch to another build, like let's say like you get like halfway through the campaign and you're like, oh my god, minions suck. You can play another build with this ascendancy. Like you're not locked into a build. All right. So the other ascendancy that I'm kind of excited about that I think nobody should sleep on is the Titan. Now the Titan I think has a pretty clear path forward for minions. Okay, I think it's 4, 5, 8, 1. Okay, so 4, 5, 4 you get your little rucksack, your extra 20 inventory slots, but you don't really care about that too much. You're just using that one to get to the number 5, which is like the bread and butter, which is 50% increased effect of small passive skills. Now over the like grand scheme of your character, 50% increase of all the small little passive skills that you have is a lot of stats. Things like increased armor, health regeneration, and then for your minion stats, things like increased minion damage, increased minion attack and cast speed, maybe even increased minion health regeneration or health regeneration rate. And we've already seen too at the top of the tree, there's a reduced spirit reservation node, and if the smalls leading up to that one are smaller, like reduced reservations for spirit nodes, that could be really insane. That means that this node here, this 5 node, could give you like 1 extra specter, for example, if it gets you over a breakpoint. So I think like this is going to be pretty crazy. Just to give you some like context for how crazy this could be, I want to show you with an example from PoE 1. So here's an example of the Righteous Army cluster, okay? So in this cluster, there's 2 larger notables and 6 small passives, okay? So we're going to ignore the large notables for a second because they don't apply. We'll just take a look at just the small passives, okay? So there's 2 of these minion damage and life ones. There's 2 minion damage and attack and cast speed, and there's 2 minion damage nodes. So if you look at like what's that total, you've got 20% minion life, 72% increased minion damage, and 6% minion attack and cast speed just from the small nodes. But if I increase that by 50%, I've got 30%, 108%, and 9% respectively, which means that from this node, I gained, with just 8 points on the tree, 10% minion life, 36% minion damage, and 3% additional minion attack and cast speed. That's crazy. Like you extrapolate this over a character and all the little nodes that you're getting from all the different clusters. I feel like this ascendancy node could be so potent. And especially if there's like reservation stuff that you can get that you can increase. This thing is going to be nuts. Okay, so then I said 4, 5, and then 8 and 1. 8 is no-brainer. 15% more max life, that's just tankiness. And 1, 50% more armor from equipped body armor. So just imagine this character running around, tanky as heck. Maybe you pick up a lot of like small life regen nodes. They get increased by 50%. The armor nodes are getting increased by 50%, the small ones. You've got a lot of flexibility in your gearing because maybe you're able to get some more stats here and there, like attributes. I don't know. I feel like this one could be really good for minions, and I don't think people should sleep on this. Now, what I will say is, if you do this one, I would not recommend going your rucksack first. What I would do is, I would go 8 first, get the max life, and then when you hit your second lab and you get your like second set of points, you would unspec that, get your 4, 5, and then come back and get your 8 again on your third, and then 1 on the fourth. If that makes any sense. But yeah. What do you guys think? Am I overcooking it? I feel like maybe I'm overcooking it, but I don't know. I'm just so excited about all the different ascendancies that we get to try. I think for launch, I'm going to be going the Gemling Legionnaire just because of the this node here, the adaptive capability. I think that node is just crazy. I feel like getting this node at like level 20 or 30 right off the beginning of the game and being able to try every single skill, every single support, that's going to be just like an early access like gift. So that's kind of my plan. Start off with this. Maybe I'll go like 7, 1, 2, 8 or something like that. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What is your plan? What minion builds are you planning to play? And are there any other ascendancies that you think people shouldn't sleep on that could be good for minions that aren't like traditional minion ascendancies? Let me know in the comments and hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you guys in a couple days.